Oh, we're live. Wow. Just like that. Just the wonders of technology. So I'm excited today because I get to talk to I guess we could say we were schoolmates. We went through this course on LinkedIn while we were on LinkedIn while there was a pandemic happening. That's a lot. And I'm excited to talk to her because while we were cohorts or part of the same cohort, we went two distinctly separate directions and we have two distinctly separate industries. And yet, our trajectory of success is similar. And I think that one of the things I appreciate, and I notice I haven't said her name yet because I'm building it up. So, of course, you can see it on the screen too. And you're probably following her already because she has triple the amount of followers I have. So, or connections, we like to say. But one of the coolest things about her industry is that we really need them post COVID. We really need to start having more conversations about mental health and social well being. So, without further ado, I'm here to talk to Shara. Miss Shara, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Martin?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm chilling. I turned 52 yesterday, so I
Yeah, living
feel
that parent life. Mm-hmm.
that and being a Leo and being on the planet after 52, black men weren't supposed to make it past 25. So I made double that. So I feel like
Oh,
I'm winning, winning, winning. Um, that said, when I came across your content on LinkedIn, it was very authentic. You were talking about food stamps, you were frying fish or no, turkey wings, and your beautiful son was always in the background telling us something.
mm-hmm.
And you would think, in 2020 or 2021, when that was, that type of content would not have led you to where you are today, which is a successful two-time author, someone who's on
Five
LinkedIn.
times. I have to correct you. Five
Wait,
times.
wait, wait, wait. How many times? How many?
Five.
Five. Okay,
Five.
five. Uh, excellent. Congratulations on five, not two. Um, and being on LinkedIn advisory board in the positions you're in, one of the few people in that space of social work and mental health. And then lastly, but not leastly, being able to show up authentically as yourself, still the same person I remember 3 years ago. You haven't, you changed, but you haven't changed, if that makes sense. Also want to do a congratulatory walk across the stage because you also have been featured in USA Today. So
Yes.
this is a lot in 3 years or 2.5 years.
Yeah, it's been quite a roller coaster ride. Um, I'm still processing the USA Today feature that happened earlier in the beginning of the week. Um, and just in awe of seeing that, I literally saw it and literally cried because I remember I was explaining, actually, this happened right before my study group that I have on Clubhouse for my social workers. I remember 30 minutes before someone says, "Look, so you're in USA Today." I was like, "You're lying." I was like, "Let me go see. This might be somebody else." They may, and I look and I literally fell in tears. I was like, "Sure, you got to get it together. You have 114 people waiting for you in the clubhouse room to do your study group." And I literally cried and then actually brought that journey to storytelling inside my clubhouse study group before we started talking about what we were supposed to be in there for doing questions. That really seeing that and being recognized for my work nationally, uh, it's still surreal. I will say that. I never thought I would be doing a lot of the things that I've been doing. It's been 2 years, 7 months, almost 8 months now that I've been an entrepreneur. And when I started that journey, it started on LinkedIn before any of that. I was a social worker, mental health therapist. I met a influencer who said I need to start getting on video, and I started getting on video. That's how I met with you, and I started sharing more of that story. And that story took a mind of its own the more I shared. You talked about a lot of the food posts I used to do Yes, I was cooking a lot during the pandemic, but I was in a very tough spot, and I wanted people to know, just because they saw a shiny profile, a lot of letters behind my name, that I'm a human being, and I was really struggling with my mental health. So cooking, taking care of the kids while going through a moment that would have been a milestone at that time. I had failed my board exam by 2 points in November 2019, and then told 30,000 people on LinkedIn. I said I failed, y'all. I was supposed to pass, and it was embarrassing at the same time. It was a lot of people cheered me on, gave me a lot of support, and then that whole year, from the time that I had failed the exam all the way up until um, November of the following year, people had been following. I had been posting. Sometimes I would get on video and do 2-3 times a day. People were like, I don't know how you're doing this, and I would organically share what was coming up for me. Struggling with the fact that I didn't have a job. I had lost it a week before the pandemic. 3 kids at home to take care of. Um, Trying to just make ends meet and really try to figure out what was going to happen to the career that I had built, where this license was supposed to open that door. When I passed that exam, I remember posting it. So many people responded. I believe it was like 93,000 people at the time. And I was like, wow, what are people really responding to? It's the fact that I shared every day, even when I felt like, because I didn't always want to do video, but I kept doing it because we were in that group, and I, wanted to get the word out there that I was really stuck. And people, when I shared that, and then I passed my exam, it blew up. And I think mostly because I was able to show that hero's journey. And then I decided to go into entrepreneurship with that story, and it took another life of its own, from being in Business Insider to becoming a LinkedIn advisory board to USA Today to doing a lot more than what I thought I would be doing in terms of impacting my colleagues to keep going in their own journey. Um, just thinking that I was scared to tell that story, and the fact that I stepped out, it morphed into something I never thought it would. So, yeah.
Yeah, you made me think about when you talked about dealing with mental wellness, and I I've heard you say it, but I think in this moment I thought about the post,
Mhm.
and I thought about the time I don't know if I sent you a DM message or I said it. Sometimes I know I said it on the post of like, yeah, we got you. You just reach out if you want to talk. And because I was living in Philadelphia at the time, I also felt like if I needed to run to Shara, I was going to figure out how to get there. I think at the time I was living in West Philly, so I didn't feel like I was that far away. But then we moved to Center City,
It
and
left me.
yeah. Um, so, but my point is that, or my question is, I get it. You said, you were being transparent and you wanted people to see that you're human in spite of the letters behind your name. But a lot of times when we're dealing with stress, that's not the moment we decide to like do something opposite. Like you kind of double down on that 4 scoops of ice cream versus two.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, what was it inside you that said, this is the at this moment, I'm going to be open and honest with LinkedIn, and I'm going to say on LinkedIn, I'm having um, mental health issues right now
Mhm.
in this moment while I type this.
Um, I thought about when I was a therapist, and when people would come to me. Actually, I had a colleague of mine say, "You don't look like what you've been through, um, and you don't look like what you're diagnosed with," and that still burns me till this day. Um, because this is a medical professional that said this, a psychiatrist, and it stuck with me. Mostly because when I was a therapist, I dealt a lot with stigma, having to take off those titles, that mask, and really connect with my clients
Right.
to help them through their journey. And people used to look at therapists as having all the answers, when most of us come into the profession because we don't. We're looking for our own. So
Hmm.
when I shared that I was broke, stuck, depressed, playing Animal Crossing day and night because that's the only thing I controlled. The George Floyd thing was going on. There were riots in Philly, if you remember that. Um, I, I I didn't know what was going to happen, and I felt that I wanted people to know that they were not alone in the fear of what was happening outside of their house. People every time you turn around, you turn on the news, people were dying from this at the time, a virus that we didn't know anything about until it's too late. Um, and just really struggling with just trying to every day um, to get the courage to get out of bed. And I wanted people to know what that journey was like, which is why I started sharing. And there were times when I remember the one post I did talk about, hey, I'm broke, I'm stuck, I'm depressed, I'm really struggling. Um, I wanted to take that post down. The
Mhm.
second that I put it up, I wanted to take it down. I will tell you that. But I said, no, Shard, keep it. There's somebody out there that need to hear it. And plenty of people reached out and said, thank you so much for letting me know that I'm not by myself. Because people put up things on social media, but they don't always show the journey. And I think what a lot of people see now is a lot of people like I've been following for a very very long time, even before any of this, and they find it to be inspiring to watch that progress in real time. And my willingness to share all of it and be unapologetic to that journey. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think though that there is something else special about you and all of us who, you know, as you get older, you start to realize there's a pattern. And I wish that, we taught kids this at 12 and 11, but there's a pattern of life. And every 10 years, every 7 years, you see a secular, something come around again. And the cycle of that, if you can navigate, you know, bell bottoms coming back for a third time, now baggy pants coming back again, um, you realize that there's a maturity that you have when you can operate and not follow the trend, but be happy at the same time, and be happy for those who do follow the trend. Like, wow, that's really good on you. You look good, in '92 when you did it before, but it looks good too in 2024 or 23. But and genuinely mean that, not being just sarcastic, but genuinely mean that. You realize certain things about yourself and the ability that you have internally to operate in two different planes. Operate in a plane where you're in fear, you are mad at yourself, you don't know what's coming around the corner, but then operate in the same time in the plane like, how can I be um, an asset? How can I help others? How can I? And that's a duality that
mhm.
is unique, and that's a skill set that I don't think we really talk about enough, and we don't. I don't think people reach for it. It just sort of happens, and this person just ups and appears to be this person, and they help a lot of people. But there's not a course at Yale for this, quote unquote, and so I think that's one of the cool things about your personality is a duality of purpose versus just I'm here to serve myself and I need to get myself and my child or my children through this, but I'm
Mhm.
also feel the pull to serve the community, and sometimes people call it servant leader, and I think that LinkedIn allows you to show up in that space. Although I don't know if they have an AI article, so if LinkedIn, if you're listening, and of course Shara's on the live too, so but like that's a category in an article that should be there about leadership. It should really be about the duality or space for that of being insecure, being we all have imperfections. Some of them are more obvious than others, but so there's nobody perfect. So we're all imperfect, and so operating in imperfection, but still leading. Like what the world seems to tell us is that you can only do one. You can lead, or you can be, centered in your imperfection. But to do both isn't really something that you see a lot of. So, um, thank you for being who you are, but at the same time being who you are.
Thank you.
um, I think the last thing I wanted to ask you about was something that people ask me about all the time when they talk about LinkedIn and everything. And I
Mhm.
try to give them enough positivity, you know, and let them know that LinkedIn is changing. LinkedIn has, new focuses all the time. And it's not the same platform that it was last year or year before last or year before that. But navigating the space of the platform, you don't own the platform, you are a contributor to it,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, the platform could take what Shara says or not take it.
Mhm.
And so, how do you operate in that space where you can have an impact? They've asked you to be impactful because you are impactful, and yet your impact may not be felt.
Um, and that's the journey, right? I think it for me and my journey with LinkedIn in my audience, I focus on more so sharing value that if I could reach one person, I still even with the following the audience that I have, if I can reach one person, then I'm satisfied. Um, you know, so I think in there, so LinkedIn is just like any other social media platform. There's a lot of noise, right? You have to be able to find your place in it and own your voice. I always go by that old saying of the right people will come to you with you just being who you are, not anybody else. I don't look at metrics. Yes, I've been viral on LinkedIn a couple of times and all this other stuff, but do I look at those things? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that happened to me this year. 3.7 million viral posts, and I hit a million off of another post 2 months ago. But it took me 5 years to get that. You know what I mean? It's people. I want people to understand that success doesn't happen overnight. It's the constant up and down of it. There are posts that still don't do all that well, and I have a very good, strong following. And then it's just okay. Let me rework this. Let me figure it out and do something else. And if it doesn't go, it doesn't go. Somebody saw it. You know, what I mean? My all of my content isn't for everybody. I try to kind of mix it up, but some are for my audience, and some are just general for mental health stuff. But I would say stay grounded in how you can contribute to giving value to someone else. You can never go wrong with that. When people ask me about the success that I've had in terms of turning my story into a six-figure business and all this stuff, and they're like, "Well, how did you do it?" And I said, "You know what? I started out not thinking about money. I all I did was in hoping that my story can help someone else. That's what I focused on. Nothing else. Not what I can get from it. Nothing. And in that, I got so much more in return that I never even dreamed would happen. Focusing on impacting others and what lessons I can give them from the hardships, um, from what I've been able to do. But not just the hardships, the good and the bad. But in that came another calling. So I don't think you can ever go wrong with that type of compass of focusing on what you can give and the value.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So, congratulations again, Shara, and thank you for giving us your time today. I'm glad that I could help you in the content game, produce content that you can repurpose, maybe. And if not, if you're like, that was great, no problem. I will personally make content that says your name and why I think this conversation or the takeaways from this conversation were really impactful. You gave several takeaways that were very impactful. So thank you again.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Make sure you follow Shara on LinkedIn. It's really simple to find her everywhere and any platform, the same spelling. She's the one and only. You know what I'm saying?